Beatles, Volume 4. Oh, I was hoping to.
Catch it right before. We'll let it run.
Uh, Alexa, stop. I was hoping it would. We would coincide it so we'd kick in with the chord. But as usual, Alexa has failed me.
That's all right. Well, good evening, everybody. Back in the day, it's Thursday night. Great to be back. I was off last week, Mike. Good to see you back. I hope that your week is going pretty well for you. Um,
Quiet, uneventful,
there's
which
nothing
is
wrong with
always
that.
good.
Sometimes that's a really good thing. I am kind of entertaining my last week as a free man here. I'll be heading back into school next week. So
Oh, that's great. School, God, school seems to start
earlier and
sooner
earlier.
and sooner. Now, when I was, and went to school in Cleveland, growing up as a kid before I moved to Florida, and school started after Labor Day, and you
Hmm.
went to like the second week of June. Now
Yep.
the kids are out mid-May and they're going back. My grandkids are going back next week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks to standardized testing on that one. Yeah, as a teacher, you're usually back about a week before the kids, and that I have to be back. I'm always back in a week prior to that, just so I can get my things together. Because once my official days start, they're usually pretty tied up with stuff, updates, new things that are happening. So yeah,
are you
yeah,
a
so
5 day or 4 day school week?
5 day. Yep.
Okay, they just started where I work, the city, not where I live, but the city I work in, Independence, Missouri. Um, this year they're starting a 4 day work week because they thought it would attract better teachers. So
Well, they are getting very desperate. Teachers are. I mean, I know of a couple districts around here that are scrambling to try and get enough people in just to start this year. So
huh.
it's become interesting because when I first started, I mean, I've got, I don't know, probably 25 years in total. I mean, I would I would apply for a job that was myself and 200 other people applying for one position. So it was pretty crazy. So interesting how the tide kind of changes. So hey, we do have a couple people in here already. Looks like we got Robert popping in.
Yeah,
Robert, good
Vic,
to see you, bud. Back on the regular. Speaking of which, you're probably going back to school pretty soon yourself. I'm sure you're about ready for the next semester, for that fall semester for college. So it's been great to see you around here as a regular once again. So very good. So and someone I'm guessing that's Vic saying school in August. We always
yeah,
start
Victor's
in August.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we always start in August every year. Some years earlier, some years later. It's generally dictated by testing. To be honest with you, and testing, at least for us here in Pennsylvania, is on a floating schedule. Testing could be middle of April, or I'm sorry, it could be end of March, could be like middle of April. Even as close as like say like the beginning of May, and it changes from time to time, and so that's kind of the basis of it. So I'm saying, what grades do I teach? I teach third grade, which honestly, awesome, awesome age. 8, 9 year old kids. They love coming to school. They love being there. They're way shorter than me, so generally they listen.
yeah. Nobody
and,
pulling a
and
gun on you.
yeah, and they're old enough that they enjoy, that you can kind of get into things a little more with them. I don't have the not the ambition. I don't have the level of uh, I don't know what I want to say, energy to work with, say, like kindergartners, because those guys are nonstop. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, they can
That's
just
why,
go and go and go.
that's why they have nap time.
That's
That's why they have
exactly
nap
right.
time.
Yeah, yeah. So Robert says going back to college. Wow, 6th of September. That seems kind of late, but maybe that's why they do it across the pond. I know here in the states, I know college probably most kids going back next week. I would assume. So yeah. Anyway, hey, can't complain. I have a nice chunk of summertime off, and gives me a chance. I got a lot of stuff done this summer. Just finished it up with my big bike ride last week, and so I'm gearing up and getting ready. So
Good, good. Glad you're back. Glad you're back.
yeah, very good to be back. So All right. So again, here we go. Sidelined off beginning of the show. It seems to be the how we start things out. So but that's okay.
So
Uh,
that's their homage to Jay. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And speaking of which, I did see Mike. You said that I guess Jay's father passed away. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I tried to reach out to her again. I'm hoping one day she'll get back. I don't know at this point, but it'd be great just to get a quick hi or thumbs up or something from her. I miss her. Yeah,
Yeah. She's
yeah,
just still. I mean, hiding. I guess is. I mean,
yeah.
it's probably the word to say. I mean, she's changed her phone 4 times now. Her phone number. She had to get a new social security number.
Oh my God.
Yeah, whoever did it
And
really
that
did a number on her.
well, and with what she does for work, that had to mess with her as far as work is concerned. I would
Yeah.
assume. Yeah, yeah. And this was the other big bomb this week. Mark Gilpin
Mark
passed away.
Gilpin. And it's
Yeah.
weird because I had just texted him the day before. He passed yesterday. So I texted him on Tuesday because I didn't get a reply back. Spencer at SharkCon wanted him as a guest next year. And I was
Oh,
just
really?
reaching out to see if he was
Available, right?
amenable. And his sister, April, she died. I think she was 48 or 49 when she died. She died really young, too. Mark had a form of cancer, but April died of, they call it natural causes. I never saw what the actual underlying condition was, but they listed her cause of death as natural causes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So please keep the Gilpin family in your thoughts. They've lost, 2 children in a, 4 or 5 year span.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember we were talking. I don't know, a couple months ago about that, and I thought I had read something along those lines. That I want to say possibly brain cancer. I'm not really sure. I don't want to say that that's definitely what it was, but yeah, not good because I remember coming across what I thought was a GoFundMe page for him, and yeah, I mean it's a shame. He's 56 years old. I mean, unbelievable, unbelievable. But at any rate, we're gonna kind of roll into what we got going on this week.
Yeah. That's my friend Matt commenting. I'll share a quick Mark Gilpin story. Um,
Sure.
on the ferry over to Jaws Fest, there's another author who actually writes for my same publisher, and I won't say his name, but he was doing a Jaws theme book, and he was talking about how Jaws is the best movie and Jaws 2 sucks, and he hates everything about Jaws 2. And so then Matt and we ran into Mark Gilpin in Edgartown, and we're talking to him. And then this author comes up, and Mark says, "Oh, I'm doing an interview with this guy." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "He hates Jaws too." So that's how we left it. But he did the interview for the book. But yeah, it was really nice. It was nice because Jaws Fest, or both Sean Brody's were there. Jay was there, and Mark was there. So,
Oh, that's
but yeah.
cool.
And Matt is also a good one to. But you want a link to come on and talk about the Beatles, because Matt's
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Matt's a singer songwriter. He lives up in Maine. He does Bay festivals and everything else. He's got. He used to do back in the day before all the issues with Jay and the computers. Every week, Matt would do a song. So yeah, Matt, if you want to let us know if you want a link, and we'll get you on here.
Oh, we'd be glad to. Yeah, the more the merrier. Especially we got some people with some music background, because that's really cool. So we're gonna roll into the Beatles here, and Beatles is the topic for the week. And I thought I'd start it off with, I'm honestly kind of young as far as the Beatles. I mean, by the time I was born, Beatles already broke up, and everyone was kind of doing their own thing. What was your introduction to the Beatles, Mike? What do you remember?
I was born in 1960, so
Mm-hmm.
I've always, in my mind, I've always known the Beatles. I used to watch the Saturday morning Beatles cartoon. Um, and actually, the very first record I ever bought with my own money was the 45 to Hello Goodbye. And, I really can't remember a time in my life when the Beatles weren't around. And um, what kind of gave me the impetus for this week's topic is um, a couple weekends ago, we went here to Kansas City, and there's a show called Rain, which is a really nice multimedia show. But it's four guys on stage as the Beatles, and they are voice perfect, every musical note perfect. But I was just amazed at the age range in the crowd. There were people like me in my 60s and people older than me, and then there were grandkids, and Juanita, she quizzes the grandkids every time we see them. Name the four Beatles. Name three Beatles songs. Yeah, it's just it's their legacy continues. Even now. I mean, they've been broken up for more than 50 years, and they still, they're still popular. It's amazing. It's like Jaws. I'll say the Beatles are the Jaws of the music world, or Jaws is the Beatles of the film world. But that 50 years later, they're still going strong, and they still sell albums. And McCartney does sold out concerts, and Ringo does sold out shows, and he tours with his all star band. It's just amazing. The music's timeless.
Oh, I mean, and when they hit, I mean, the whole world kind of stopped and hit the reset button because from that point on, and it's not even an argument anymore. From that point on, the face of music and I mean, really pop culture in general changed and has not, has not gone back, has not been different, or I should say, has not reverted back since the early '60s. I mean, since the Beatles hit, and I mean, you just can't, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, it's undeniable and unmistakable the impact what they have and still have to this day. And I agree 110% with everything you're saying there. Yeah.
So, what was your first introduction?
So my father's a musician and always has been a musician. And so growing up, um, honestly, I had a huge exposure to music at a very, very early age. And on top of my father being a musician, my grandmother was a huge Beatles fan, which was kind of interesting because she was 70 years old, and we would go visit my grandmother, and my dad would play Beatles albums and stuff like that for us, especially when we were younger because it seemed like more music, more likable. Perhaps a kid would pick up on. My grandmother, when we would go visit her, she would sit down at the piano and she would play Yesterday at the piano. And to this day, I mean, I hold that really, really close. That was awesome. And I'd sit next to her, try and sing along with the words. And then, we'd be over having a good old time. And, when you got two young boys and a grandmother, and, young boys don't quit, what she would do is she would take us in the spare bedroom and she would put an album on, usually one of the early albums, and let us get up and jump on the bed to kind of like get the energy out. And so that's how I probably learned the love for the early Beatles stuff. My dad definitely played it, definitely played the older stuff, but when it came down to it, my grandmother, I mean, I was sitting thinking about the show today, and that memory just keeps popping up into my head. My grandmother throwing Beatles on the turntable, and it was the big old console, the big wooden consoles,
We had the
speakers in it
sliding
on.
doors, and yeah.
It was like a piece of furniture, and she'd put that on, and man, we'd be up on the bed jumping up and down, and just awesome time. When you're a 6-year-old kid or whatever, I mean, that was just incredible, and that's how I learned a lot of the earlier Beatles stuff was visiting my grandmother, which is kind of cool. And just I can go on and on from there. I have a bit of a musical background, obviously my dad does, and it still lives on because my son is a bit of a guitar player, and he has discovered the Beatles, and so I've been kind of reliving it through him now, and so it's really cool to see it come around. Yeah. Speaking of first touch with the Beatles, we had a surprise guest on tonight. In fact, he just popped in, Mike, by the name of Jamie Saunders. So we're going to bring Jamie
Oh,
on
I was
here.
totally going to say by the name of Paul McCartney.
Yeah, here we go. So, Jamie, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hey,
Good. How
man.
are you?
So good to see you, buddy. Hey, sorry about the late thing. I just had a thought the last minute. I said, I'm going to contact Jamie. So I know you're a Beatles guy. So right now we're just having to talk, Jamie, about what was your exposure to the Beatles? What do you have?
Man, little kid hearing the music and just, even I was born in 71, so they were already broke up by the time I was born. But once I heard it as a little kid, my mom would have it on the radio and stuff. I was just hooked, and then it was just part of my life until when I was in grade 9. I saw for the first time the Complete Beatles, the documentary narrated by Malcolm McDowell, and as much as I'd always loved the music, I didn't know anything about them other than just loving the music. And once I saw that, then the obsession grew. And it was hardcore obsession. I didn't have a lot of money, so whenever I could buy things, I'd buy them, but I never got anywhere near what I collect now with Jaws stuff. But the obsession all started with the music. And just it literally, and I mean this, it sounds cliche to say this, but it's literally been the soundtrack of my life. And anybody that knows me knows I have two obsessions. One is Jaws and one is the Beatles. And hopefully you can see this, but so I have the first major tattoos I got Beatle tattoos. I don't know if that's coming out, but I put together the faces from Revolver, all as kind of like a Mount Rushmore type thing.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah.
And then
Abbey
that
Road.
one there.
Yeah.
And then on my other arm, I got a bit of that.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm looking backwards on my camera trying to, and then I have my favorite lyrics, which are, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And that basically, that's me. And yeah, and a couple cool little tidbits. So my parents divorced when I was 4, but my dad dated a woman for 15 years who was from England. And she went to high school with George and Paul. I believe they were a year older than her. Well, George was a year older, so Paul would have been 3 years older. And but she also didn't live too far, and she would walk by George's house and hear them practicing in the garage before they were anybody.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great.
Now, how cool is that?
Eddie McCormick over in Liverpool. His mom went to school with John Lennon, and she tells a story how they were on 3rd grade in the playground, and Lennon just ran up and smacked her in the face and ran away. And then later on, when I read Cynthia Lennon's book, he did the same thing to her. That's how he told her. That's how he told her he liked her.
Yeah.
Eddie, you could be Julian Lennon. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And one other little thing, my little claim to fame, Beatle wise. So I've seen Paul live a bunch of times. The last time was 2015 here in Canada, in Toronto, and it was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet here. So I bought a first row ticket, and in 2015, the first row ticket, it was $2,008.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And that's through Ticketmaster. That wasn't a scalper. That was Ticketmaster. And and of course, my wife wanted to go, and my buddy wanted to go, but I made them sit back with the commoners. I sat front row by myself. And my wife and my close friend were up in the 300s. But so with this front row ticket, I got to go to sound check and eat at catering, and you got a bunch of Beatles, a bunch of Paul McCartney stuff or whatever, which was cool. And I had written him a letter, and I'd done some research, and I had written him a letter, and he had an assistant who she was in charge. She was one of his assistants, but she was in charge of corralling everybody that was there for, like, had the premium seats and was there for sound check and stuff. And I forget her name, older lady, but you can see her on YouTube talking to him and stuff. I just forget her name. But anyway, so when I called her by name, she kind of looked at me because she's like, how do you know me? But I'd done some creeping and trying to figure out. I'm like, is there any way you could give this to Paul? It's just a letter, da 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 da. And she said, because you know my name, yes, I will. So she took the letter, and then she disappeared for about 10 minutes, and she came back. She goes, I put it on his desk. She said, I know he saw it because he was sitting there when I put it there. I never did get a response, never did get a whatever, but whatever. However, so later on in the night during the concert, I had made a big sign because I know he likes to, he'll sign autographs, but he generally will sign someone's arm or something because they're going to get a tattoo. I've seen him do that a bunch of times. And so I made a big sign saying, Paul, please sign my arm, and I'll go vegan. That's what I wrote because I wanted to get his attention. Clearly, I'm not a vegan, but I didn't want to lie to him. So it was big black letters, and it said, please sign my arm and I'll go vegan. And then in pencil, very small, like half an inch, I wrote for a month because I didn't want to lie to him. So when they came out and started playing, he was standing right in front of me, and he looked at the sign and kind of laughed. They were playing 8 days a week, and I saw him look at me and look at my sign and laugh. And I'm like, please, I know, because he always pulls somebody up before, like, the encore and stuff, and I'm begging, please, God, please. And it didn't happen. However, at one point, he was just getting ready to play what ended up being And I Love Her. And he was looking at all the signs, because we all had signs, but I was screaming so loud. I was like a little schoolgirl. And he was looking out, and he goes, I can't read these signs. There's too many to read. And I just started yelling and screaming. And he turned to me and he said, what? And he goes, I see your sign. I love you. He said, but I'm doing a show here, and, like, you're not the only pebble on the beach and whatever. He was talking to me, and then they put me on the big screen, and I was just, you could have shot me and I would have been fine. He was talking to me, only me out of 40,000 people. And I'm like, oh my God. And the guy behind me, he snapped a picture of me from the side, but my face is on the big screen because Paul's talking to me. And so he took this picture, and then as soon as this conversation was done, he texted me the picture. So I have this picture, and then by the grace of God, somebody put it on YouTube. And so I immediately downloaded it, and I have it forever now. And it's Paul talking to me. And that's my,
cool.
yeah,
That's
that is
great.
my, yeah. I didn't mean to go on and on, but yeah,
no.
That's
Victor,
That's awesome. Are you
Victor,
kidding?
Victor asking Canadian Jamie Saunders. Victor, he said a boot like 3 times. Obviously, he's Canadian. Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
The Jamie Saunders.
Yeah.
Awesome story. I've seen Paul like 12 times. My wife has seen him like now 5, but he always puts on such a great show. It's just amazing. That man's 80 years old, and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
He does not. He does not disappoint. Every time that I've seen him, but especially in the last 15 years, he literally he does about 35 songs, 36 songs, and he's just incredible. And now I'm a musician too, so I play his songs all the time and stuff, and I know how hard it is, and I have nothing but respect for the man. Up there all that time, you can tell he loves playing, he loves fan interaction, he loves getting reaction. So that's his drive, and but that's his thing, and that's awesome. Albeit he's losing his voice at 80. Who can blame? But it's still amazing. It's still incredible. And I just saw that he just announced a whole bunch of dates in Australia, and the man's a machine. And
every
I've
tour, he
nothing.
always works in like a new Beatles song,
Always.
which I think is great. It's like, I've never done this one live. It's like,
I wish he would do a thing. Years ago, Kiss did some sort of a thing online where you could vote for your city for them to come play, and you can pick some of the songs on the set list or whatever. And the city that I was living in at the time came in first place. And I remember, and then it was a big deal because the Kiss didn't want to play there because the city I lived in only had a little tiny, like 3,000 seat arena. They didn't want to come, but they ended up having to. Anyway, I'm going off, sorry. But I wish Paul would do something like that, because I've got like 20 songs I would love to see him live. He does a lot. He does the standards, but there's so many that he's done. But man, I would have killed to see him do like Martha My Dear and like Maxwell Silver Hammer, and like just some of the stuff that he's never done, and I know would be great. Rocky Raccoon, like however, you know what I mean? Like but he talked to me, so I can die happy.
And Kiss is all A and G anyway, so I mean, how hard is that?
That is correct. That is, and tune down a whole step.
Yeah, a whole step. That's right. I was thinking that step. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Did you guys watch Get Back 2020? Yes.
Oh,
yes, that was such a great show. In the early days of home video, there was a company. It just went out of my head, but they released, like, they had 6 videos. It was like Frankenstein and Alien, but one of them was Let It Be, and they didn't have the rights for it. And so I rented it, and then I lost it. Well, I'm trying to do air quotes. I lost it, and I paid, like, back then the absorbent like $99. Mm-hmm. But I've got a nice, really great copy of Let It Be. But I thought Get Back was great because it showed, because Let It Be was almost depressing. The director was like, well, let's show him always fighting, always bickering, always this and that. In a famous with Paul, and he's talking to George, and he goes to grab George's guitar, and George is like, hey, tell me what you want. You don't show me. And but Get Back showed really that they still, in spite of all the differences, they still loved each other and they had fun. And you talk about Paul loving the tour. He wanted it to end a concert in the Coliseum in Rome, and instead, they all compromised, and you've got the final concert up on the roof. But yeah, it's and when we started out talking about 50 years after they broke up, that's like one of the most popular shows ever on Disney. People still love the band.
When I sat down to watch that, I thought, I'm going to do this in one sitting. I couldn't, obviously, but I watched it in 2 sittings, and my heart was so full when I was done watching it, because as much as I love the Beatles, I never really liked watching Let It Be that much. I liked watching it for the music, but again, right, it was just, to me, that was like, this is them breaking up. And it was depressing. Yeah. The whole video was depressing. The whole movie was depressing. And even as a teenager, when I rented it and copied it and had it forever, I watched it over and over, but it was like, man, this is just like, this is not the Beatles I want to remember. And then when Get Back came out, it was like, this is it. And I watched it and I was like beaming, because I'm like, this is like, thank God that Peter Jackson did this and resurrected all this footage, and we saw what it was really like, and it was awesome, and the music was great, and the quality was fantastic, and I just fell in love with them even more, which I didn't think was possible. And
even a couple of years prior to that, Ron Howard did a film,
8 Days a Week.
But it still didn't show everything. I mean, it ended. It was still basically Let It Be with a little more added to it. But yeah, I just thought this look into the way, and then McCartney just sitting there, to go from plink 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 to Let It Be, mm-hmm. in an hour, and it was just all of them, even Ringo, I'll give him credit for Octopus's Garden, but they all were just brilliant songwriters.
When you think about I don't mean to keep going on. Sorry, guys, but
no, that's why you're here.
No,
okay.
that's why you're here. That's why we invited you, man.
All right. Well, so yeah, I was born in 1971. But even when you think about the span that they ruled the world, and I mean, they started recording in '62 with "Please Please Me," and then in 1970, "Let It Be" came out, even though Abbey Road was recorded last. But you think about, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was listening to Sirius, and it's always on the Beatles channel, and they were playing something live from 65 or 66, probably 66, because I was thinking, God, here they are playing, and it was something like one of their standards. It might have even been Twist and Shout playing live in 66. And then I'm thinking, okay, here they are on stage, Mop Tops doing their thing in 66, but they had already recorded Revolver. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, like the people I would have killed to have been alive in the 60s and to experience that for the first time as it was happening, as the music was coming out. It's like, because like Help came out in late 65, I think. And then and you think of the music that's on Help. Yesterday's on Help, and one of my favorites, which You Gotta Hide Your Love Away, is on Help. And then right after that, Rubber Soul comes out. And then right after that, Revolver comes out. Like sometimes bands go 6-7 years without an album coming out. The Beatles are putting them out every 6 months and touring in between.
Like two a year.
Yeah. And
they set records on that.
The progression of each album, but especially basically from Help on, even Beatles for Sale, which is another one that's one of my favorites. But the progression of music from 66 on, but Help and then Rubber Soul and then Revolver, and to think that they were still touring, and all the stuff for Revolver was in the studio, it was done. So they're out there doing Twist and Shout, doing a 20-minute concert and playing 12 songs or whatever. But like Eleanor Rigby's already recorded, and For No One is recorded, and Tomorrow Never Knows is recorded. And it's like the people back then had no idea what they were in for. Do you know what I mean? Like I would have killed to have lived during that time to experience that music for the first time and in order. And it would have been incredible. It would have been incredible.
It was. I mean, I can remember, as a kid, so probably I said earlier, I don't remember a time when the Beatles weren't on the radio, but hearing this and here's the next song by the Beatles, and then they used to just release 45s when they weren't doing albums. They just go in the studio and make a single release, and it's just it's helped us go to the first heavy metal song. Paul thinks it is, and I'm not going to
argue. To the Who, right? That was.
I'm not going to argue with Paul McCartney, and it's a great song. And on the Beatles channel on Sirius, they every now and then they'll play like an alternate take, and they play like this really slow, mellow version of Helter Skelter, and it's like, oh, that's kind of good too. But I love the screaming, the nastiness, as Paul calls it. I want to share a story really quick. We talk about touring. The first time we used to play trivia with some friends here, and one of our friends is from Liverpool, and he's about 10 years older than I am. And we were talking about Juanita was getting ready. She was getting ready to go see Paul McCartney for the first time. And she goes, "How come you're not as excited as I am?" And I'm like, "Honey, I was excited, but I was playing along." I'm like, big deal. We'll get to see a Beatle, big deal. And our friend Paul, who saw them here in Kansas City, said, "Oh, I saw 4 Beatles here when they played in 65. And our friend Ken from Liverpool says, "I remember when they played my high school dance, there were 5 of them."
Wow. And
I'm like, "Well, you saw like Pete Best and Stu Sutcliffe?" He goes, yeah. I was like, oh my God. How amazing to actually been there. I mean, to literally be there at the beginning and see how the band progressed.
Yeah. My dad's girlfriend there, I would talk to her about it all the time. When as a kid, I wanted to hear everything And she never claimed, she never said, "Oh, I knew them well," or whatever. She said, just they were in school. They were people I knew. I'd see them in the halls, and then I'd walk by George's house, and I'd hear music coming out of there. I'd hear them playing and drums and everything. An amazing story.
Wow.
Jamie, what's your top album? Yeah, pick one. One album overall.
Why don't you ask me which one of my kids is my favorite? That's a little easier. If I was gonna go to a desert island, oh man, it would ask me today. It's going to be Abbey Road. And the reason why, I love all the stuff on Abbey Road. I love all the stuff on all the albums, but Abbey Road. But I'll tell you right now that the Golden Slumbers medley at the end there, that kills me every time. That crushes me every time. Yeah, when I first started learning how to play music, the first time I saw Paul when he toured in '89, his first tour since the '70s, he closed with that for the first time, and I was like, that was it for me. And I committed myself to learn how to play it on piano and guitar and sing it. And then when I was in high school, we performed around in Canada and the States for a little bit, and we did a little medley of the last part of that medley live and stuff, and I got to play guitar and do all the guitar parts and stuff, which was really cool. And yeah, that whole section of music just means so much to me.
There's a tutorial on YouTube that I watched, how to play the end on guitar, and the guy's going, okay, this is Paul.
Yeah.
And this is George. And this is John. John wasn't as good as George, so he's more of a raunchy sound. I was like, wow, to break it down like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that medley is great. If you asked me today, I'd say Revolver, but tomorrow it might be Sgt. Pepper's.
Right.
I mean, they don't have there isn't a bad Beatles album.
No.
I listen to the Beatles channel all the time on Sirius, and even stuff they play that wasn't a hit. It's just they're just great songs.
Yeah, some of those songs that are buried on albums that never made it to any of the best ofs of the Red and Blue album or the Volume 1 Past Masters and stuff. Some of the stuff that's just buried is such great music. I also wanted to show you real quick. I don't mean to dominate all your time, but I just wanted to show you one of my guitars here. So when I play in a couple of bands, I play in a band with my wife, but also I play in a band with my son-in-law and his twin son. And when I'm in that band, I play bass. And this is one of my basses.
Oh, nice. Nice. Hofner?
No, it's an Epiphone, which is a really good brand as well. But they I wish it was a Hofner. My God.
I was gonna say.
But this is one of my favorite instruments. And sometimes I break this guitar out. I bought this because it played well, but also because it looks a lot like John Lennon's guitar. Where am I here? Sorry. John's guitar. Let It Be. Yeah.
Nice.
This is an Epiphone just like his. I just changed the pickups in it. But it's one of my favorites. Cool. This when we first moved to this house 6 years ago, I had hung up a bunch of my Beatles stuff, and then I was like, man, where am I going to put my Jaws stuff? Because I just started collecting a couple years before, and then it was like, okay, I'm going to put some of the Beatles stuff in the garage, but and then this became my recording studio became my Jaws room. But I can't get rid of the Beatles stuff. Just it means too much to me. Forever, the music, everything.
My one corner of the basement is all my Beatles stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my tie to you. This is my early '70s Rick 4000.
Right. That's beautiful.
Got this guy used when I was about 17, late '80s, because my area pro neck died on me, and I wanted something had that sound, and had that baby ever since. So, yeah.
Very cool. Oh, another little
thing. Guitars that have brought mine up from downstairs. I feel bad now. Jim, you want to hear good musicianship? A couple weeks ago, I saw Rain, which is
they're good, eh?
And the guy that was playing Paul, he came out. He had obviously the replica violin bass, but when he played yesterday on acoustic, he played it right-handed.
Oh.
He was playing bass left-handed. He was playing guitar right.
Yeah.
Oh my God! throw it in everybody's faces. Oh, you can play guitar? Can you do this? I was like, yeah. And they were so good. It was so nice. And I was telling Nate, I mean, the audience ranged from 8 to 80, and everyone loved it.
I have it's still packed away, but I have where I lived, where we originally lived was about an hour from Toronto, and now we've moved. We're about 2 hours from Toronto now. But when there was a guitar store that opened up a couple of years before we moved away, and in there he had a bunch of different guitars. But the owner was an older guy, and he had a picture hanging on the wall of Paul, George, and Ringo, and a couple of they look like singers, I guess. It was a black and white picture and a couple of guys in it. And he'd seen my tattoos, and he goes, "Oh, you're a Beatle fan?" I said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Look." He goes, "That's me." He was in one of the opening bands for the Beatles when they played Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto in '64. And this picture of him with John isn't in the picture, but it's Paul, George, and Ringo, and a couple of, because there was 2 or 3 acts on the bill, and he was one of them, his band, and there was a girl group, and there were a couple of girls from this girl group in this picture, and I was like, and his name was Nick, and I'm like, oh my god, and he gave me the picture. He goes, "I have lots of these. I give them away to Beatle fans, and you're one of them." So I have this cool picture of somebody I know with the Beatles.
That's amazing.
That's
amazing. If Lennon wasn't murdered in 1980 with the Fab Four reunited in the I've always believed that they may not have gotten back together full time, but I believe that as much as John and George, well, all of them were into world issues, I definitely think the Beatles would have reunited for Live Aid.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Possibility. Yeah.
85, yeah.
They might not have done anything after that, but I think they would have come out and because Paul was there, and I think they would have definitely done 3 songs and called it quits.
If Geldof could convince Pink Floyd to get together in 2005, he could have done it in '85 with the Beatles. For people,
And I mean, people often talk about, the fact that Paul and John was such a weird mix, which I think is what really played so well to the music. But yeah, I don't think they would have ever saw themselves as bigger than the Beatles. You know what I mean? At some point, for a good cause, might get
a great combination, because Paul is always upbeat and let's do this, and just like it's getting better every time.
Yeah.
Paul sings that. John writes, "Can't get no worse." They were just perfect to each other.
Yeah. There's a question here for you, Jamie. It says, "Steve's Music Store in Toronto was my favorite music instrument store. Were you ever there?"
Oh yeah, lots of times. Yeah,
it's gotta be Vic, I would assume.
Nice big store. Another cool thing, I don't know if you guys back in the day, up here in Canada, on Sunday nights on the big radio station in Toronto, they were playing. It was a show called Lost Lennon Tapes. Elliot Mintz hosting it. Do you remember this? This was like 89, 88. Yeah.
Sure.
Elliot Mintz was his manager for a little while. He subsequently became like a PR guy for Paris Hilton and all kinds of stuff. But back in the 70s, he was friends with John and Yoko, and he was his PR guy for a while. Well, in 89, right around the time, 88, when Imagine came out, the second movie in 88,
yes.
They had a radio series called Lost Lennon Tapes. And every week it was just stuff that Yoko had given this guy, Elliot Mintz, and he was playing. And it was kind of basically the son of, or the grandfather of, the anthology series that came out in 96. Because it was all this rare stuff, a lot of stuff of John just sitting at home in the Dakota playing acoustic guitar, doing old Beatles songs, or writing for the first time or whatever. It was fantastic, and we used to tape it every week. But I ended up with we had 80 tapes, because it was on every week, and we were taping it every week, and it was. And then over the years, as you know, tapes they disintegrate and whatever. But I got really lucky, and I found it online, and I found the entire series online as MP3s, And it's very long because it's like, I don't even know how many shows that are an hour long, but there's some gems in there that were of the early Beatles stuff. You know, like I said, it was kind of like the beginning of the anthology. It was little clips of stuff in the studio, and it's like, oh my God, this is just so amazing. A lot of stuff, you know, John's at home recording with a tape recorder, doing whatever on an acoustic guitar, and then the phone rings, and then he picks it up, but he picks it up and talks like a Scottish, old Scottish lady, and I can't do an accent, but he's like, hello, hello, and no, wrong number, and then he goes back to his song, and very, very cool stuff to listen to. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Wasn't Real Love in the Imagine John Lennon film?
I think there was a clip.
A clip
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah.
The second Beatles single. Yeah,
there was Real Love, and I know there was something else too that came out later. But yeah, there's it's so sad to listen to it and think what could have been. But at the same time, you know what? I mean, the whole thing, it was lightning in a bottle. And I mean, like, I'm not a huge Stones fan. I respect that they've been out there doing it all this long, but like, I'm not a huge fan. And so then there's lots of people at work I joke around with because they're Stones fans and I'm a Beatle fan, and who's better and this and that. Well, Stones have been together longer. Well, yeah, you know what? That doesn't mean they're better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm probably making a lot of enemies by saying that, but I don't think the Beatles or the Stones were anywhere close to the Beatles. They're good, but just, I think, as John always said, what if we would just be four old men up there singing "I Saw Her Standing There"? And I mean, I'd love it. I'd go, but
I'd go see it.
Absolutely. But it's like they're like a perfect diamond, you know. And then 30 years later, you get them up there doing something. Could it be as good? You know, it'd be good for us, for our hearts and stuff. But then yeah. As a musician, I understand why he would say, "Nah, I don't think so." But as a fan, I'm like, "You do it."
and you know, to this day, you say, you know, to this day, there's still the Stones and Beatles camp, which is kind of funny because that started in the '60s, for God's sakes, but it's still that way.
Yeah.
And I also still get a lot of the Elvis or Beatles camp, which in my mind is not even an argument because you got a singer going up against, you know, serious musicians. But
the Beatles, John and Paul wrote the Stones' first hit.
That's right.
I want to be a man.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Like I said, I just think that the Beatles are on top and everybody else is a little bit underneath, more underneath, whatever. But I don't think there's any better than the Beatles. You know, I just don't.
Who's the first Beatles member? Quit the band.
Yes, they've all been written. Trivia question: Who was the first Beatles member to quit the band in 1968?
Ringo.
Yeah.
First one out.
Because he wasn't feeling love.
Gone for a week, and then he came back, and all the flowers were on his drums, and yeah. I've read there's some really good books too that really like, because there's lots of Beatle books, but I found all the ones I've read. I think the best one is The Love You Make, which is written by Peter Brown, who was with them from the beginning, but he became kind of their quasi manager after Brian died. And
to say you can make it okay, you can get married in your France.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read that book, that's one I highly recommend. It puts you right there because there's a lot of details in there, a lot of stuff you just didn't know, and there's some squabbles and stuff, and it's a great book. I have 2 copies, and I've read them, a hardcover and the softcover, and I've read them both to death. And it's a fantastic book. It was actually being written before John died, and came out just after he died. He had been helping with, like, they'd all been contributing separately, and then John. I don't want to say much more about it other than it's a great book, and if you ever get a chance to pick it up, it's great.
Awesome.
Give me the Stones. A big break.
Jamie, you are a wealth of information, buddy. I tell you, struck the nail on the head tonight, buddy.
It's my pleasure. I love that you guys do this for this show, and every Thursday with the Josh. I love it all. Like I thank you very much, guys, for doing this. It's great for the fans are able to connect. Facebook's crappy in a lot of ways, but man, oh man, when it comes to stuff like this, Facebook's great because we're all friends here, and like, man, I've made so many friends, you guys, and so many friends on Facebook because of Jaws and the Beatles, but mainly for me for Jaws. And I've made all these friends, and we send each other different things, and talk about different things, and man, I'm very grateful. And so thank you very much, guys, for doing this, because it's great. And I don't get to be able to watch as much as I would like to. You caught me on a good night, and it worked out perfect. So thank you.
Nate, you still have the Amity Road picture that I sent you a few months ago when we did the Martha's Vineyard?
Which one, sorry, Mike?
I don't have a copy of it, Mike, but I could
I don't know
probably
if you still have the slide. There's I don't have it here in my office.
I'll try to track it down.
Yeah, there's a picture that I call Amity Road. That is 4 of us in the big crosswalk there in Edgartown.
Oh, I saw that. I just saw that on Facebook.
But we're posing like Abbey Road, but I think
that's very cool. Jim Beller was in it too, right?
Eddie from Liverpool. So in 2025, the 3 of us and Eddie will recreate that photo again, because that'll be.
I can't wait.
That would be awesome.
I can't wait for everybody to be there and for all of us to meet face to face. I was just writing. Do you know Anthony Ferrara? Do you know Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote him because I just made a comment on his page today, just because he's helped get some autographs that I didn't have and whatever. And I was just writing and I was thanking him, and he and I said, I just can't wait for all of us that have talked for years over Facebook to meet in 2025 when there's a date set. We're there. I've been there. I've been there 4 times now, and the last time my wife and my daughter and son-in-law came in last June, and they loved it. And it's beautiful. I don't have to sell it to you guys, and it's beautiful there. And my wife has always seen me go with my friend, my Jaws friend, my son-in-law's dad, and we went 3 times in a row, 3 years, and it was surreal. The things that I got to do, the things I got to see, the people I met, and I don't mean to be talking about Jaws on the Beatle thing, but just I can't wait for all of us to meet.
Jaws show.
We're all in the safe house here, JB. You're okay. Well, last year I missed you by about 2 hours. I got on the vineyard and you posted something, and I shot you a message, and you said, "Oh man, I wish I'd have known."
I remember that.
You guys were
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh,
very cool.
Let's make sure that we can go at the same time. The island will be packed, but it'll be great. And I would love nothing more. Last June, I was able to hook up with Jay Mello beforehand. I went to his house, and then we took him out to dinner and stuff, and we spent the day with him, and that was a lot of fun. And
I saw the video. You had to do the video with the hands.
That was a bucket list thing for sure, and he was all game, and a few beers, and he was willing to do anything. So we were at a celebration. It was awesome.
Well, hopefully it'll be early June. It'll be cheap, and I'm working on I don't want to say anything because it's still far away, but I might have a place for everybody to stay.
Oh, really?
Please keep your Canadian friend in mind, Mikey.
Of course.
I appreciate that.
International.
Have you guys? I know you're far away, but are you going to take a chance and go up to New York and see The Shark Is Broken?
I'm going this weekend.
I'm toying with it. I'm trying to talk my wife into going, because October 1st is the Broadway Flea Market.
Yeah,
which I used to love going to, and it's also the Chiefs are playing the Jets, and my nephew's a trainer for the Chiefs.
Cool.
And usually, if they go out of town, he can get us tickets to go out of town. Sure. So I'm trying to turn it into, we can go to the football game, and we can do this. Oh, and look, The Shark Is Broken is playing. That hasn't worked yet, but I do want to see it. I'm sure they're going to extend the run. So
yeah,
but,
I went twice in Toronto, and was lucky enough to meet them both times and talk with them and talk with Ian, all of them. But they were all so nice, and they signed my programs. And then the second time that I went, I'd actually printed up the picture. I just got it off the internet. It was a picture of Ian and Robert together. Ian's small and Robert's holding them, and I got Ian to sign it. I got it hanging on my wall of posters here. Sorry to keep.
Oh no!
No, let's see it, man.
Where are we here?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's very cool.
Nice. Oh,
Just hung that up today, actually, believe it or not.
He makes his S's like his dad.
Yeah. And he was so nice. My wife was with me the first time when we went to see the play, and when he came out, I was already blown away by how much he looked like him when he's got the stash and just I was just blown away. But when we were standing in front of them, Sandy, my wife, was just like, "Oh my God, that's Quinn!" Like that, she just couldn't. She goes, "Oh my God!" I said, "Yeah, he looks a lot like him." And just sweet guys, very, very sweet.
Well, one of us is seeing it this weekend, and it ain't me.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Nate's
Saturday night, 8 o'clock show. I got the whole family talked into it. So yeah, we're gonna drive up.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now make sure you do what I did, because when I was there in Toronto, when no one was looking, I grabbed a couple of programs. I don't know if you can hang on. I grabbed.
I already told Nate to grab all the playbills you can.
Yeah. That's what he said. Yeah.
Grab all the playbills you can. And if Ian Shaw comes to the stage door, get him to do a, "Hey, you're watching Let's Talk Jaws Live."
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Or even better, welcome to the Jaws 50 page.
Yeah.
But, you're gonna. I'm so jealous, Nate. You're gonna have a great time, because everything I've read, and the guy playing Brody now, Brightman, he was Beetlejuice.
Oh.
And he played the Jack Black character in School of Rock. I mean, this isn't a musical, but they've got some really talented people in that show.
Yeah, it's two different guys who play Hooper and Brody now, and so I have nothing to compare it to, because I only saw them and they were great. The guy that played Brody, I can't remember his name, but he was. I looked at his. I was looking him up on IMDb, and he was in Saving Private Ryan and a few other movies. And I asked him about that too, and he said, "Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work." And we just talked quickly. I didn't want to take their time because they had to do 2 shows, but they were very accommodating, very nice. And when they saw me standing outside the second time, it's like nobody else thought to go to the back door. As soon as the show was over, I raced to the back door, and I was the only one there both times. And nobody thought to do it. And I'm like, this is great. There's no one else here bugging them. And then they spent all the time with me. They were very, very nice.
We used to do that. My friend Ben and I, we go to New York and see a show. But if we'd already gotten autographs, we would go to other theaters. We would go early in the day, go to the box office and say, when is this? We're interested in going. What time does the show let out? And they'd say, oh, it gets out about 10:18. So, at 10:15, we'd scurry over to the theater. As people were leaving, we'd run in because we'd forgotten something. We'd grab a couple playbills. We'd race to the stage door and then get them autographed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, Nate, do not make eye contact with anybody on the street. I took a bunch of my employees up to see Phantom of the Opera when it first opened. And one of them had MS, and he was in a wheelchair, but he could still move his legs. He just propel himself. And we were walking down the street, and someone just kind of just got behind him and started pushing his wheelchair away. And I said, "Oh, I'm trying to steal you, Andy."
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie, for being here. It's great to have a fellow Canadian on here.
Yeah. My pleasure.
I'll try to get William Shatner next week, Victor. And Victor, I will say in our defense that we have asked you, a Canadian, to be on this show many times.
So many times, Jamie. We can't talk him into it. Can't get him on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all right. We understand.
And that's so funny because he doesn't turn down anything. You know what I mean?
He's like Michael Caine in the 80s. Yeah.
Exactly. Gene Hackman too, who is fantastic. But yeah, same thing. He never turned down anything.
Yeah. Well, hey, not to keep you on too much longer, Jamie. I know we're slowly running out of time, but real quick, your opinion, because obviously, musician, you got a big background, and you know, I know too. You know, especially listening to early Beatles, you think how easy it was until you try and learn how to play it and really get in it. What do you think about this quote new song coming out, which was, I guess, taken from like 1978 archive from John Lennon with the AI? What's your take on it? It's coming out sometime this year.
I won't lie. I'm definitely going to listen to it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely going to probably acquire a copy just to have, because whatever. That I think that opens a Pandora's box of you know. I remember George saying once, not too long after the anthology came out, I hope somebody takes all my crap demos when I'm dead and turns them into hit songs or whatever. And where do you draw the line? Because I think so Paul's involved in this, so there's some legitimacy there, but God forbid, what happens when Paul goes and then Ringo goes? Then there's no more Beatles. And then will the estate now be in charge of pulling? Oh, well, this is what Paul would have done, or this is what Ringo would have done. I don't know. Like, I definitely wouldn't even Real Love and Free as a Bird. I love those songs, but to me, they're not Beatles songs. I love them. Right. I sing along with them, but do I call them Beatles songs? Because they were John songs. And even though literally from like 65, 66 on, they kind of wrote their own songs anyway, even though it was Lennon and McCartney, it was a different time. I think I don't equate them the same as I do with Beatles songs. Just like if it was reversed, if they pulled a bunch of Paul songs after he had passed and John played on them, they wouldn't be Beatles songs. They would be Paul songs that the other guys played on. Just my opinion. Like, I love it. I'll listen to it, but do I think do I give it the same love that I give the rest of the Beatles songs? Probably not.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. As somebody that ran out at midnight after the first Beatles anthology aired and bought 10 copies of the single of Free as a Bird, yeah, I'll buy it and I'll listen to it, but it'll never be the Beatles. It can't be, you know.
Yeah.
December 8th, 1980 put an end to the Beatles.
It did. And
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you've got ethics coming into play there. You have, honestly, and I'm sure that could come down to, you want to get a lawyer involved with that, rights and everything else, because it's not like they're sitting down and writing this. You know, they're inputting what they think what they think Paul would have done with John's part, and so it's really not the same. Yeah, I 100% agree on that. But yeah, I will definitely listen to it.
I do want to share something with you here before I go.
Sorry, I had something pop up on my screen, and the screen went black. Do you want to update? So that's why I leaned in. If people are the show's in 3D.
I wondered, because I'm not that interesting, Mike. You leaned right in like this. I'm thinking I'm not that interesting. In 1990. In 1990, a girlfriend I had at the time, she worked at a camera store back when people took film to camera stores to get developed, and somebody had come in and had negatives of pictures that he took, and he wanted to get them reprinted. And she's like, "Yeah, okay." So she started reprinting them, and then realized that he had met Paul McCartney and John Lennon 2 separate times. So she made a couple of copies for me. So I've had them all these years, and they sit on my studio speakers. So I'll try and show you here. So this is the one she gave me of John and Yoko in front of the Dakota. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Nice picture.
So that's
wow.
Yeah. And so I was in New York City a year ago for the first time, and went to Central Park, and it's like, okay, I have to go to the Dakota. And I believe right here, this entrance right here, that's where I stood, but I believe that's where we lost them. Was right there.
Yeah. The vestibule going into the courtyard.
And then this picture here of Paul.
Yeah.
I guess he had met him at Pearson Airport, which is in Toronto. Nice. And so she printed those up for me. and I've had them ever since. They sit on my studio speakers. I just love them. This is my Jaws room, but I got John and Paul looking at me. So
Yeah, I was in New York before I went to Germany in June of '81, right after, and the doorman that was there that night, he was on duty when I went by the Dakota.
come on.
Yeah, and we talked for a while, and it's just I've got pictures of it, and I thought it was odd that right across, right down the road there on 72nd Street was a building, and it had a big billboard on it that said New York has the toughest gun laws in the country. And I was like, really? That's you couldn't put that sign anywhere else.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's tear-jerking subject, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The final thing, did you see the movie yesterday?
Oh, I did.
Did you?
I loved it. I
Spoiler
loved it.
alert, I won't give away, but did you cry when he went and visited?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was like,
as soon as he opened the door.
Oh, it was just like, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I really didn't. And when that happened, it was just like, and my wife too, but yeah, every time I get to that part, it's a lump in my throat, and it's just like, and then there's a line that the kid says, "You made it to," and like that, just I got chills now. I got goosebumps now. It's just absolutely. I thought that movie was done so well, so tasteful, and on top of being great, it was just a great movie. But the music was great, and that was just like amazing. Yeah. That was a great moment. You've seen the movie, Nate?
I have not seen it. No.
Get on it, brother.
Not seen it yet, bud. All right, man. All right. Yeah. No, I have not seen it. I can't say a word about it.
Yeah, you'll love it, man. You'll love it. Especially you're a musician too. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Don't listen to Ed Sheeran when you write songs either.
Yeah. And I keep saying one more thing and then whatever, but just music wise too. The second time I went down to the Vineyard, I brought my acoustic guitar and I tracked down Michael Hayden, and I had him teach me the music that he played at the beginning of the film. And it's on my page. Yeah. And that was cool too. That was a real neat bucket list moment for me too. And it was cool.
See, I always thought it was is it Nashville Skyline Rag? That's what I thought it was, but he said no. He just kind of
he showed me. He made it up, and he just I changed a couple of chords here, made a couple of little jazzy chords, and at the time I can't even play it for you now because I kind of forgot a couple of the chords and I wouldn't embarrass myself. But it's not just a little. There's a couple complicated chord changes there. I was really blown away because I couldn't figure it out on my own. I wanted to play it for him, and I'm like, man, I can't figure this out. I told him that, and he goes, "Oh, this is why. This is what I did." I'm like, "Oh, he's a smoking guitar player. He is an absolute smoking guitar player.
He's a musician." We went to last time I was on the Vineyard. We went to dinner with him and Edith and a bunch of our group went, and he just told the amazing music stories. And I mean, we did this and I did this, and it's I've played guitar for 30 years, and I'm nowhere near what I should be because I'm probably as good today as I was in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
and I wasn't that good back then. And to here's someone that just they just love what they do and how they do this and how they do that. And until I read Keith Richards' book, I had no idea there was a 5-string guitar.
We ended up driving Michael home. We drove Michael home that night, and he took us in his house, and he played piano for us for like an hour. I got all these videos of him playing piano songs and stuff, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, and he's still active on the island. He's still cutting songs too. He cuts them. You can get online and listen to him. It's it's good stuff. Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
He was doing like a performance at an art museum opening or something. He was playing jazz guitar for an hour. He said, "Meet me here," and then I did, and then we went outside and played guitar for a bit, and then he said he had to call a cab, and I said, "You're not calling a cab. I'll drive you home, man." Yeah, it was great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, guys. It was
thank you.
God bless what you guys do.
Hey, Jamie, really awesome. Great surprise. Glad you came on. Great information.
My pleasure.
Just my pleasure.
I can't wait to shake both your hands in 2025.
And everybody bring their guitars.
Exactly.
And like I said, I'm buying the first round when we do. So.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, bud.
Take
Have
care.
a good evening. Take
Cheers
care,
for
man.
Canada. See you later.
Got it. See ya. That was quite cool, Mike. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, he's. I knew he had a big background. Number one, I knew he's a big musician. I've seen videos of him. You know, he still gets up and plays. His wife jumps in and plays too, and great guitar player, great musician, and yeah, obviously a big love for the Beatles as well. So yeah. So hey, you guys at home, sorry, I've been trying to at least scroll through and bring up some of the comments there. Having someone on who's a resource like Jamie, it was very, at least for me, great just to sit back and listen to some of his information stories. So, but just want to pop a couple of these up here for you guys. But yeah, awesome guest. Yeah, that was fabulous. I was just kind of on a whim there. You know, I didn't really. I thought, hey, why not invite him? And thought maybe he'd pop in for a couple minutes. But yeah, that was great, awesome stuff. So. And what we got? Mick Jagger gave credit to the Beatles for giving the Stones their big break. Yeah, and their song. Yeah, first song.
I want to be your man.
And somebody from the Stones camp went over to the Beatles. I want to say it was in manager, possibly, or something along those lines. Once they started, recording their own, had their own studio, and started to kind of get away from that whole kind of mod look, even though perhaps they weren't necessarily mods. There was some crossover there between those two guys, but yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, I don't know what else you got. Anything else you want to hit on, Mike? I have a couple topics, but to be honest with you, I feel like we really hit a lot of information.
Yeah, great show. Have fun Saturday. Be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure. I already warned the wife. I said, make sure you have your phone handy. Make sure you're taking pictures and whatever else we could do. And yeah, hopefully I'll be coming back, and hopefully I'll be sending something your way, Mike. So definitely excited and looking forward to the show. So
have fun.
Yeah,
have fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for coming tonight. Again, Jamie, thank you for coming on tonight and sharing some of the spotlight there with us. And great show. Good evening. And just great sometimes to not, follow, or stick to a script and just kind of see where things kind of carry you. And that, I think this is true for that. So awesome night tonight. Thank you, Mike. Mike, thank you as always very much. And
pleasure. Thank you. Glad you're back.
Yeah, great to be back. And we'll check in next week with some Jaws stuff. Hopefully I come back with at least some type of a story pertaining to the show. So, Mike, what do you want to take us out with?
Oh, let's see.
Don't say the Stones.
That's right. Yeah. Alexa, play I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles.
There we go.
I Want to Hold Your Hand, remastered 2009 by the Beatles on Amazon Music.
Got my Ringo head going.
We don't have Ringo hair, though,
Yeah, not anymore. Dun, 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 dun.
All right, guys. We'll let this
relax, everybody.
Have a good evening. See you guys next week.
Beatles forever, they used to say. Beatles forever.
Beatlemania.